All right, folks, welcome back. It's Oscars at a Glance. This time, we're not really talking about Oscars too much. So this time, we're going to get into some of the early stuff for the Golden Globes. I mentioned that we were going to get to it last time. We ran out of time, but we're going to get to those today. But first, we have a development here. The AFI Fest lineup has been announced, so I'm going to go through that. We mentioned it last time, but Mudbound is going to be the opening film there, and that's going to be starting on November 9th. So that's, what would that be, a little over 2 weeks away or a little under 2 weeks? I don't know. Whatever the days equal. I think it's a little under 2 weeks away. And then we've got, what else is coming up? Call Me By Your Name, The Shape of Water, Gemini, Film Stars Don't Die in Liverpool, The Disaster Artist, Thoroughbreds, Molly's Game is going to be there, Hostiles, I, Tonya, and I believe if it's not the closing film, it's one of the last films they show is All the Money in the World. So, really, I think that's the only one we haven't seen yet that that's going to be in competition this year. That one, and then Gemini is another one. That one, I've only seen a preview for it, but I don't know if it's going to get any love anywhere. And then Thoroughbreds is a new one. I think it's one of the last performances from Anton Yelchin, who passed away last year. He's in that one, and Olivia Cooke and Anya Taylor-Joy are in it too. So it's got some of a familiar cast there. I don't know if that one's going to premiere in time. That one might be a contender for next year, but it's going to be at the festival. And then, yeah, I think after that one, after All the Money in the World, pretty much the only other big contenders at the Oscars that we have not seen yet will have been The Post, which arguably at this point we don't have a trailer for it. There was a picture that came out of Tom Hanks as Ben Bradley. I don't know if it's an official one or not, but that's online. But that's about the only publicity we've seen from the film so far. And that one is supposed to come out in limited release in December and then wide release in January. Um, but at this rate, since we haven't seen any other buzz on it, unless we get a trailer here, say in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to start to say that one might fall off. Because it was one, I think Spielberg was going to do. Oh, crap. I can't remember which one it was, but he was going to do something. And then the post was going to be the first thing he did after that. I know he's working on the post production stuff for Ready Player One right now. That's coming out in March of next year. But at the same time, he was also doing this other film. I can't even remember what it was now, but it was going to be something. I know there's one he wanted to do with Jennifer Lawrence where she was a photographer at the site on 9/11. I think it was It's What I Do, or it's something like that, or but it was going to be about the photographer who captured a lot of very memorable images from 9/11 in New York there. And I think that one he still wants to do it, but it's been mentioned so many times, so he might never get to it. I can't remember what the other one was though. There was another one he was going to do that has been pushed back even further now. I know Indiana Jones, a new one of those he's mentioned, but this one, The Post, it was supposed to be like a 2018, maybe 2019 thing, but then with all the political stuff nowadays with Trump in office, he said it'd be very timely to get it out now. So he pushed that one up, and he got Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep to get on board, and now, as far as I know, it's done shooting, and they're still working on editing it and stuff. But if they can't get it out in time, then yeah, that one's gonna have to get pushed back. But that one, The Greatest Showman, is another one that's a December release that we haven't seen yet. Let me just double check here to see what else is on the calendar this year for like December releases and stuff that could maybe make some potential Oscar moves here. Phantom Thread will have not screened, but we do have a trailer for that one, and a few posters and stuff too. And that one looks, like for a Paul Thomas Anderson movie, it looks a lot more upfront and a lot more simple, I guess is the word I'll pick. It looks a lot simpler than some of his other work, like Inherent Vice was all over the roadmap, and that was kind of the story it was telling, though. Of course, something like Magnolia is not exactly your standard type of film, and Boogie Nights and a few others like that. But this one looks a lot more simple, a lot more straightforward. That's the word I'm looking for, straightforward. It's just kind of a love story with the 50s fashion designer played by Daniel Day-Lewis. So that one is not going to do any of the festivals. The Greatest Showman, we mentioned, The Post. What else is coming out in December? Well, obviously something, potentially like Star Wars, The Last Jedi. I don't know what its chances are for Best Picture right now, but I would say probably it's definitely not one that you need to you know say it's going to get in. But anyways, but I think those would be the last three because I think everything else is at a festival or well, Wonder is another one that comes out in the middle of November. I don't know, maybe outside of Best Makeup, what its chances are for getting anything else. And then Murder on the Orient Express is another one. So that's what, five or six, or four or five, whatever the number I just said. That's the only other one that hasn't screened anywhere yet. And and yeah, so I think that's it. So those are the last ones that don't have any festivals that we're just gonna have to wait and see until they open. But yeah, that's the lineup for AFI Fest. Okay, so now we're going to get into the Globes race. Now, of course, the Globes are important when it comes to predicting the Oscars. We've seen a lot of contenders who have not really popped up until they get to the Globes, and then after that, then they get in everywhere else. And then sometimes it's deception that somebody will win the Globe and doesn't get nominated, and so on and so forth. We've seen that happen with Amy Adams a few times. Um, who else? I'm trying to remember who. See, didn't somebody win last year and they didn't get in? Oh, I can't remember. No, they all got in last year for if they won. But anyways, but we've seen that it's happened before. It's happened before. Like Nicole Kidman, that's one I was thinking of for when she won in '95. I can't even remember what the name of the movie was, but it was kind of a comedic film. She won for actress in a comedy, and she didn't get nominated, but she wasn't, I don't think, in the forefront to get nominated, anyways. So yeah, it's an important thing, and obviously doing its own predictions. I always do something on the Globes, especially when it comes to like last minute predictions and live reactions when they announce the nominees and so on and so forth. So that's going to continue, of course, but I don't really start to announce what I'm predicting until we get to like November. So I wanted to jump on that a little bit earlier this time. I know it's almost November right now. We're coming up on Halloween, so it's at the end of the month. But I wanted to go ahead and get out some of my predictions here. And well, when we get to the comedy race in a minute here, I'm going to start with Best Picture Drama. But when we get to the comedy race, we have to remember that some of those categories switch. And we actually did see one here that got switched recently, and that is now a drama. Okay, so for the five that I have getting in for Best Picture Drama, I have Call Me By Your Name, The Post, Darkest Hour, The Shape of Water, and The Florida Project. So those are the five there. Now, Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri is one I have in for Best Picture, and it's ranked pretty high. That one was originally a comedy in the comedy race there, but now it's been switched over to drama, and we've that happens a lot of the times. And I think there's a couple other ones we'll get when we get to the comedy race. I'll mention them, but there's a couple other ones that I think could switch. So that's why there might be some question of why aren't you predicting this? Well, because I don't think it's going to stay there. And Three Billboards is one I had it in, but I was not extremely confident in it getting into that comedy race because, yeah, even though there's a lot of laughs in the trailer I saw, and I mentioned that last time, but at the same time, it's kind of a dramatic subject matter where she's kind of seeking justice for her dead daughter. I mean, that doesn't scream comedy, does it? No. Anyway, so and of course the big question everybody's asking, why is Dunkirk not in there? Well, this is a very tight race this year for these top films in each category. Dunkirk is one I don't have in there because I don't know. I just think that the Globes, with their mentality, they like something like Call Me by Your Name. They like things like The Post and Spielberg. They like him a lot. The Shape of Water I have getting in. The Darkest Hour. Now this is one I think they absolutely would love. I haven't seen the film, but it's just from the trailers and the reviews and everything, it looks like a standard Globes fare where sometimes, it's a film like this sometimes does better at the Globes than it does at the Oscars. And then with the Florida Project, it's I'm sticking with my original thoughts on this from a couple months ago, but this is pretty much like if we have a Moonlight contender this year, the Florida Project is it. It's from the same distributor, not the same subject matter, but definitely that kind of low budget, feel to it. And plus, you've got maybe a couple acting contenders there as well. So that's why I have that one. And early on, I didn't think Moonlight would have a good chance of getting in for Best Picture Drama at the Globes, but it ended up winning the damn thing. So that's why I have it in over something like Dunkirk. But and we mentioned it last time, but Mudbound, Netflix film, The Globes, with all their TV categories, a lot of streaming nominations, the Globes have been probably the heaviest in the streaming nominations here in the past few years. They love nominating that stuff. So, Mudbound, if it's going to get in anywhere, this is one of the most likely choices for sure. Phantom Thread is another one. They do like Paul Thomas Anderson a little bit. I think almost all of his films have been nominated multiple times here, and they do like him, especially with his actors. I remember Burt Reynolds won his category for Boogie Nights. Tom Cruise won supporting actor for Magnolia. Obviously, I think Daniel Day-Lewis won for drama for There Will Be Blood. There's a few others in there, but they love nominating his actors. So I think, yeah, Daniel Day is a good choice there for sure. Um, what else here? Was there anything else I was going to mention for drama? Um, no, those are some big ones to consider for sure in that category. Okay, let's get over to comedy or musical. The five I have getting in here are Lady Bird, The Greatest Showman, The Disaster Artist, Battle of the Sexes, and The Big Sick. Especially for Greatest Showman, like Les Mis won that year that it was up. I think it was 2012. And then Lady Bird is kind of that the little independent film. Sometimes they go for those. That's why I have that one out front. Let's see, The Disaster Artist. I think that's self-explanatory. The Big Sick kind of it's like Trainwreck from a couple years ago. And that one normally I would also have in the screenplay race, but I have it getting in here and then for Best Actor for Kumail Nanjiani. But we saw Trainwreck couldn't get into that screenplay race, so that's why I don't have that one into that slot. We'll get to that eventually. But right now, and it could be a very strong play here, Get Out is also going to be campaigning here in the comedy race. Now, personally, since it is a horror film for the most part, and it does have comedic elements, that's why I get they're going for the comedy race. But I think that those horror elements, which pretty much almost automatically puts it in the drama race, I think that's what's going to happen. I think that's why I'm not predicting that one, is because I think it is going to go over to the drama category, and if it gets into that drama category, it ain't getting in. No, no way. So that's why I don't have it here. That's why I'm not putting any nominations down for it. Despite, yeah, I do still think it's the best film of the year, and definitely one if you haven't seen it, even if it's not your cup of tea, it's good. It's really, really good. But yeah, the rest of them, like Battle of the Sexes, that's a pretty standard one for what they go with. For a few other potential contenders, I, Tonya is going to be in the comedy race. That's another one. I could see that one going over to the drama race because, what happened with Tonya Harding in real life. Pretty dramatic details there. It's obviously if they spin it toward a comedy and that's what it is, then that's what it is. But that, for one, is another one why I'm not really predicting it for picture at least. I forget. Did I put Margot Robbie in there? I do have her in for actress, kind of as a placeholder right now, because if you take her out, then that leaves the competition a little empty there. Because I think when we get to the acting races here, I'll get more into it. But that one I could easily see going over to the drama side as well. Downsizing is one in the comedy race here. I think that one's pretty safe, at least from the trailers and stuff. It does look like it has a lot of comedy in it. And a lot of Alexander Payne's films do end up in the comedy race, like Nebraska. Obviously, something like The Descendants was one that was a drama. But a couple other ones to consider here. Victoria and Abdul is one. It's got comedic elements, and I think will probably stay in the comedy category. There's more laughs than dramatic moments there. Last Flag Flying, that's another one that could switch. Baby Driver is another one. That one would be in the comedy race. I don't think that would move at all. Beauty and the Beast is a musical, so sometimes they do go for those big musicals. That's one to consider. And then one more here is the Meyerowitz stories. Again, the Netflix factor could help it there. And I have seen that one. It's really good, and there's a lot of funny moments. It was funnier than I thought it would be. Yeah, sure, there's a lot of drama moments. There's a really great crying scene that Ben Stiller has toward the end that was actually really worked and actually made me almost want to cry too, because it was I don't typically see him in that kind of role. And Ben Stiller, I thought, sure, Adam Sandler's getting a lot of the love for it. He got one of the Gotham nominations for Best Actor, but for me, Ben Stiller was, I think, the best performance of the film. I mean, sure, Adam Sandler's great in it, and it's obviously one of his best performances in a long, long time. I don't know if we have to go back to Punch Drunk Love, maybe, but he's another one who got nominated too, if we're talking back on Paul Thomas Anderson. But and Dustin Hoffman obviously was great. He'd probably be in the supporting category, but he was really good. Elizabeth Marvel continues to do great, arguably underappreciated work there. Emma Thompson's got a few good chuckles as well. So that's one. It could happen to get a film nomination, and potentially we could see. I think it's tough because I don't know, because the thing is it's such an ensemble piece that there's almost no lead actor really. Because, obviously Dustin Hoffman, if you've seen the film, he's not in it all the way through. He's only, there's a part where he gets hospitalized for a while. Not to spoil anything, but, it's, I think it's in a couple of the trailers. And then Ben Stiller, it's kind of split up because the film starts with Adam Sandler's character coming in and getting moving in again with his parents, with Dustin Hoffman and actually his wife. It's not his mom, but it's Emma Thompson's character. And so Ben Stiller's not in it until about the half-hour mark, and then Adam Sandler's not in that, so he's gone for another like half hour there, and then it's pretty much at the hour point is when everything happens, where everybody intersects. So it's kind of like you could make the argument that Ben Stiller is supporting and Adam Sandler's supporting too. Despite the fact that pretty much from that point on, everybody's in the movie about the same amount. That's a tough one. And I think that's what's going to hurt both of them, is there's that argument of are they supporting or are they lead? Because you can argue both of them are leads, and then you could also argue both of them are supporting. Elizabeth Marvel, I think, would, regardless, she's in the supporting category. Emma Thompson, the same thing. I don't know if they're necessarily going to get in, but those are easier. And Dustin Hoffman's easy to consider also for the supporting category. But those two, it's tough because they're both kind of leads, but they're both, missing from so much of the film that you can't really call them the most important character. So that's a tough one. So that's maybe why I'm a little questioning on those. But like I said, Netflix, the Globes especially do like their Netflix stuff, so that might help them. Okay, let's get to director next. Let me bring that up here. Director, I do have a couple interesting choices here. Guillermo del Toro I have up front for The Shape of Water, and then Christopher Nolan for Dunkirk, so I do have him getting in for director, even though his film's not going to get in for picture. Luca Guadagnino for Call Me By Your Name in third place, Steven Spielberg, The Post in fourth place, and Joe Wright for Darkest Hour in fifth place. So I do not have, at the Oscars, I have, what's his name? Sean Baker for Florida Project. I don't know if I see him getting in into this one. But those are the five I have. They're pretty safe bets at this rate. Like I said, Darkest Hour is one I think that potentially, because obviously the Globes don't do the technical categories, but I think at the Oscars, Darkest Hour is a good bet for a lot of those technical categories as well. But I think at the Globes, it could do really well here. We've also got some other potential nominees include Martin McDonagh for Three Billboards. Jordan Peele for Get Out is, some people are putting him pretty high up. Same with Patty Jenkins. I don't know about those two. Not really. The Globes do like Angelina Jolie. Now, her film, First They Killed My Father, is getting some of the best reviews of her career as a director, but I just don't think there's enough buzz behind it to get her in. Dee Reese for Mudbound, if that one does really well. Paul Thomas Anderson to consider. Greta Gerwig for Lady Bird could get in there for sure. Or again, Sean Baker for The Florida Project. Okay, let's move on and go into the acting races here. Let's start with the leading men for the drama category. I have Gary Oldman out front for Darkest Hour, then Daniel Day-Lewis for Phantom Thread, Tom Hanks for The Post, Jake Gyllenhaal for Stronger, and Denzel Washington for Roman J. Israel Esquire. The only one of these that I don't have getting in at the Oscars would be Tom Hanks. Instead, I have Timothy Chalamet for Call Me By Your Name. But as we saw last year, Lucas Hedges didn't get into that supporting category for Manchester by the Sea, despite the fact that he was the best of any supporting actor last year. So, the Globes don't always go for the younger actors. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. They used to have a category for Best Newcomer, so if they reactivate that, then maybe somebody like him could get in there, or there's a couple others potential this year. Otherwise, the only other one that I'm hearing some buzz on is Breathe for Andrew Garfield, but that movie is doing so poorly at the box office, and he was just nominated last year. Sometimes the Globes don't always nominate you 2 years in a row, even though I do have Denzel getting in. They don't always do that, and especially if it's two of them getting in, unless they Andrew would knock out Denzel. Yeah, it's they don't always do that. Um, yeah. Otherwise, of course, I would love to see. I mentioned it last time, but love to see Jeremy Renner get in for Wind River, but it's just not catching steam. Okay, for the drama race for the leading ladies, I have Sally Hawkins out front for The Shape of Water, followed by Frances McDormand for Three Billboards, Jessica Chastain for Molly's Game, Meryl Streep for The Post, and Kate Winslet for Wonder Wheel. The Globes love Kate Winslet, so that's why I have her getting in here. The Globes also love Jennifer Lawrence. They've given her, out of I believe 4 nominations, they've given her 3 wins. They have a hard on for her. What can I say? So she might still get in for Mother, but since the film did so poorly at the box office and arguably also critically, it was very mixed, with a lot of critics loving it, a lot of critics absolutely hating it. That definitely does not help. And then another couple to consider here would be Annette Bening for Film Stars, Don't Die in Liverpool. They love Annette Bening. She usually gets in. I believe she got in last year for 20th Century Women. And who's the other one I was going to mention here? Oh, yeah. For I just thought of it. Now I lost it. Mudbound for Carey Mulligan. They like Carey Mulligan a little bit. I think she's gotten nominated. Is it once or twice? For her different work. Did she get in for Shame? I don't think she did. I know she got in for. Hang on, let me just. I'll just look it up here to make sure. But I know in Education, and I'm pretty sure she got nominated for that. Yeah, she did. Let's see here. Any other ones? Nope, that's the only time. Okay. So that could be her second nomination for that one. Otherwise, the rest of them I think are pretty safe bets. So there could be some really weird votes here and there that get a couple of the other ones in there, but for the most part, that category looks like it's fine. Uh, Going over to the comedy race for the leading guys, I have Steve Carell up front for Battle of the Sexes. Now, this one, competition-wise, could get very competitive between the 4 lead guys I have here. So Steve Carell is the first one, Battle of the Sexes. Then Kumail Nanjiani for The Big Sick, Hugh Jackman for The Greatest Showman, and James Franco have in 4th place for The Disaster Artist, with Matt Damon in 5th place for Downsizing. Now, the argument I make for why I put Steve Carell up front is Battle of the Sexes, I think, again, will cater to the Globe voters more than it would, say, the Oscar voters. And maybe the fact that it is in the comedy category helps it, for sure. But also because he's won, I think it's 1 or 2 Globes for The Office, his work there, but he's never won one for film, and they love him for the film. Like, he got nominated for Foxcatcher and The Big Short back-to-back years. Did he get in? I think those were his first 2 film nominations, I believe. But I think he's gotten more. Again, let me just double check this to make sure, because the Globes also really really like him. Obviously, getting nominated all those times for The Office through all the years of The Office. It's for sure they like him in that. But I think he got nominated for something before that. It wasn't Crazy Stupid Love. I think it was another comedy film like that. Let's see here. Nope, never mind. Nope, it was just The Office. He won for the first year of The Office, I believe. He won for that, but he's never won one for film, and they do like him, so that's why I have him out front. And then with Kumail Nanjiani, he's been around for a while, but this is obviously be the first time he's been nominated for something like this. And he's also a co-screenwriter on The Big Sick, along with his wife in real life, who's portrayed in the film by Zoe Kazan, and that sometimes helps. And then also he's kind of like the breakout star of this year in the comedy films, and especially for independent films. He's one of the bigger ones this year to break out. And sometimes when you break out like that, they love to give you the Globe, so that could happen for sure. Then with Hugh Jackman, he's won once for Les Mis, but it's a musical film, and when it comes to musicals at the Globes, like last year we saw him, when it's a musical that's very popular, very successful, they go for it. And as we saw last year with La La Land, they went for it big time with 7 wins out of 7 nominations. Let's see what all. Yeah, we mentioned Les Mis. That was a very popular musical, and it won for those. Arguably, though, Silver Linings Playbook probably should have won that year, but that's me. Let's see what else. Sweeney Todd has won there, even in a kind of a crowded year, because sometimes being a musical itself really helps you. So I think that's one reason why maybe Hugh Jackman could benefit from that. And then they do like him. He hosted the Oscars, of course. I don't think he's hosted the Globes, but I think he would definitely be one that they would consider hosting for sure sometime. And then James Franco, the disaster artist, is another one where I think the film and his performance in it could definitely help him. And then, yeah, he's also never won a Globe, but he was nominated for 127 Hours. And yeah, that could be one that could happen. I say Matt Damon's the only one I think who does not have a really fighting chance to win here because he just won a couple years ago for The Martian. And also downsizing, it's arguably the one slot here that he that is the weakest slot here. And then yeah, depending on what happens with Get Out, if it stays in the comedy category, Daniel Kaluuya is up there. He got nominated for the Gotham's, but it could happen that he gets in for Best Actor here. And then yep, we'll see how the Meyerowitz stories go. But Adam Sandler getting nominated at the Gotham Awards also helps him there. Ansel Elgort for Baby Driver, he did a good job there. Could happen if they love Baby Driver enough that I think they would give him a slot. Steve Carell is also in Last Flag Flying, which again is at the comedy race at this point. Could switch over to drama, but we don't know. And then also Ali Fazal for Victoria and Abdul. Terrific in the movie. He's really again another one to kind of pick up his name and start recognizing him. He did a good job for that one. He might get in, maybe, but it's there's a few potentials. Okay, now for the leading actress in the comedy musical category. Out front, I have Saoirse Ronan for Lady Bird, followed by Margot Robbie for I, Tonya. Kind of a placeholder right now, even though I don't know what's going to happen with the film if it gets into the comedy race or the musical or drama race, excuse me. But if it goes drama, then yeah, that leaves an open slot. Then Emma Stone for Battle of the Sexes. I don't see her winning 2 years in a row and pulling an Amy Adams. Judi Dench in fourth place for Victoria and Abdul, and Michelle Williams for The Greatest Showman. Yeah, I think yeah, when we look at the other ones for the comedy category here, it's kind of an empty year. I mean, the only other ones to really consider here are going to be Emma Watson for Beauty and the Beast, and arguably she was one of the weaker performances of the film, depending on who you ask. Salma Hayek got some early praise for Beatrice at Dinner, but it's not typically one the Globes go for. I mean, we have seen something like Frances Ha and a couple of the other limited films that come out early. If those do well enough, sometimes they'll stick around and get nominated. Zoe Kazan in The Big Sick, she's more of a supporting player. If you've seen the movie, you know that, but she's kind of off screen for like pretty much the whole second act and most of the third act, and she comes back only in the last 10-15 minutes. But she's definitely the lead character for the first act, but then she disappears for so much of the movie. She's pretty much supporting. There is one, I've seen it, but nobody else has, is Ingrid Goes West with Aubrey Plaza. She did a okay job in that. I don't know if she's necessarily the best, but yeah, and that's pretty much it. I mean, it's kind of a weaker year, at least for getting it down to 5 nominees. Yeah, but with Judi Dench, this could be this year's Meryl Streep, to where if she just keeps, like Meryl Streep last year with Florence Foster Jenkins, I couldn't remember the name of the movie last time, I remember it now. She at first looked like she was going to be maybe at the Globes and that's it, but then she got in at SAG, she got in at BAFTA, she kept picking up steam for that kind of role, and I think Judi Dench has a similar role. I mean, it's not the same, but it's got a similar role, and that could help her. I mean, definitely if she gets in at SAG, Judy I'm talking about, if she gets in at SAG this year too, and then maybe BAFTA, I mean, she's probably a good bet to get in for BAFTA for playing Queen Victoria. But yeah, if she can continue to dominate like that and get all those nominations like Streep did last year, then she could definitely break in. But the reason I'm going with Saoirse out front here is because she has been nominated a few times. I don't think, did she get in for Atonement at the Globes here? I know she got in at the Oscars, but and then she was nominated for Brooklyn here at the Globes. But I don't remember if she got in. Okay, yeah, she was in for Atonement. Okay, so this would be her third nomination. And sometimes third time's the charm. And actually, if we go back to Steve Carell for a minute, this would be his third nomination for Battle of the Sexes. Third time's the charm sometimes helps you there. And like I said, Emma Stone, unless they want to Amy Adams it and have her win 2 in a row, which I don't see happening, And plus, if Steve Carell wins for lead actor, I don't think they'll do the same thing and keep it at the same film, winning both of those awards. And plus, I do have Lady Bird again winning for film, comedy, or musical. So just as maybe just as a placeholder right now, but we'll see what happens with the competition there once we get the full list. But yeah, that's why I'm going with her. Okay, looking at the supporting actors, Willem Dafoe I have out front for the Florida Project, followed by Armie Hammer, Call Me by Your Name, Michael Stuhlbarg for Call Me by Your Name, Sam Rockwell, Three Billboards, and then Ray Romano for The Big Sick. And I still have Ray getting in for the Oscar as well. It's it's kind of a gutsy choice, I admit, but yeah, I think if he's going to get in anywhere, here is probably the best chance because yeah, like I have The Big Sick getting in for lead actor and film, and then also for Holly Hunter, who looks like a good bet at this rate, also for the Oscar. So that's 3 nominations right there. It could sneak in. He could sneak into that category. Otherwise, Ben Mendelsohn is still getting some praise for Darkest Hour. Idris Elba for Molly's Game, which just from the trailers, it looks like he's just doing a standard role here, but could happen. Mudbound, Jason Mitchell, at least from the trailer, I think he was the kind of the big highlight there. Yeah, I mean, he did great work in Straight Outta Compton, and like I said, if Mudbound does well here at the Globes, that could really happen. There's a couple of possibilities, again, for Shape of Water for supporting actor like Richard Jenkins, or Michael Shannon, Kevin Spacey for All the Money in the World. Let's see here. Who else was I going to mention? There was one other one, and now I can't remember who it was. Yeah, I can't remember who it was. But let's see here. Going through. Oh, wait a minute. I found it now. Okay. Another one, I mean, not everybody, but a lot of people this year have been arguing Logan. The film Logan should get nominated here and there. The only one I can potentially see happening right now outside of like visual effects or some of the sound categories or something like that, maybe Patrick Stewart for supporting actor. Maybe. I mean, for me personally, I'm not a huge X-Men enthusiast, but between him and Hugh Jackman, I think Patrick Stewart gave the better performance, and and the more Oscar-friendly performance, if we want to put it that way, an awards-friendly performance for sure. I mean, he's never been nominated anywhere for film, at least. I think he's gotten a couple of Globe nominations here and there for TV work, and then also for, I think, at the BAFTAs, too. He's gotten a couple nods here and there, but I can't remember if a lot of them were for film or more for TV. But he's never been nominated as an actor at the Oscars or as in a film role for the Globes. But it's a possibility. I mean, I'm not going to totally rule it out. I think it's highly unlikely because it was so long ago, and also, there's other competitors in there too. But it wouldn't be the first, it's not going to be the biggest leap of all time. I mean, to get in. I mean, I'm not putting money on it, but it's something to consider. Okay, so for supporting actress, Laurie Metcalf I have out front for Lady Bird. And I think, if I haven't already, she's also going to change over for Holly Hunter for the Oscar as well. I had Holly Hunter out front at first, but now I think Laurie, yeah, she's pretty much going to get it. Allison Janney in second place for I, Tonya. Holly Hunter in third for The Big Sick. Kristen Scott Thomas for Darkest Hour. And then Mary J. Blige I have in there for Mudbound. Yeah, this is one, like I mentioned last time, it's kind of tough for this category because you have those 3 with Laurie, Allison, and Holly. Those are 3 easy bets at this rate, and I think they'll stick with it the whole way through and get in everywhere, except maybe BAFTA maybe won't go for The Big Sick. They might not. But Kristen Scott Thomas, from what I've heard from The Darkest Hour, she doesn't have a lot of screen time. Just from word of mouth, that's what I've heard. But so I haven't heard a lot of buzz supporting her. Let's see what else. At the Oscars, I have Jennifer Connelly getting in for Only the Brave. I don't think that one's going to perform well here at the Globes. I might be wrong, but I just don't see that one doing well. Tatiana Maslany is one for Stronger. She should be getting a lot more consideration than she's getting right now. She is terrific in that. And then also Hong Chow for Downsizing. I know she got a good push here right off of Venice when the film premiered, but since then she's kind of gone soft. Still, I'm hearing stuff for Octavia Spencer for The Shape of Water, having not seen it, and just from the trailers, it looked like she was just kind of there. Didn't look like she had a big integral part of the plot. But hey, the same thing happened with Hidden Figures. She got in, so it's a possibility for sure. And what was the other one here? I forgot what it was, but yeah, those are what I have for supporting actress. Okay, and now the last category here is screenplay outside of like song and original score and animated feature and all that. But let's just stick with this one. So for screenplay, I have Lady Bird, Call Me by Your Name, Three Billboards, Darkest Hour, and The Post getting in. Yeah, again, there's the screenplay race is always tough at the Globes unless it's a really weak year competition wise, but this one is packed. And we see it also this year in the original screenplay race, especially. It is very packed. So we have these five. Then we have Get Out, The Big Sick, Shape of Water, potentially Molly's Game, maybe Dunkirk, Mudbound. Downsizing is a possibility. Phantom Thread's a possibility. If they like it enough, Battle of the Sexes could also be a contender, for screenplay. The Florida Project, maybe Wind River. What was the other one? I, Tonya. Yep, that's another one for screenplay here. Even something like the Meyerowitz stories could also play into screenplay here too. So yeah, that's a lot of other potentials here. Now, the reason I don't have like The Shape of Water in there is I have it in 5th place at the Oscars for original screenplay, so that one could fall out. Get Out, if it's gonna, I mean, if it gets into drama and it gets switched over from comedy into drama, its biggest bet then, if it's going to get anything, would be screenplay. So I might, in sympathy, they might vote for it for screenplay, those who have seen it. So that one I could see, I could maybe switch out something like Darkest Hour or The Post for that. But even then, yeah, like I said, Darkest Hour is one, I think they're really going to go for it here at the Globe, so that's why I have that one in. And then The Post, yeah, I mean, it's Spielberg, so that one, it's Bridge of Spies didn't get in for screenplay, so that one would probably be that's why I have that one in 5th place. That one could be the first to go. And, yeah, I mean, like I said, The Big Sick is one I would normally have it in, but because Trainwreck didn't get in that year, even though it was, they're kind of the same type of film that would get in at the Globes here. Since Trainwreck didn't get in that year for screenplay, that's why I'm not betting on The Big Sick this time. Yeah, so that's all that, but yeah, it's kind of early on, and screenplay, yeah, if it's tough like, or competitive like this, it's tough to get it down to 5 nominees for original, 5 for adapted at the Oscars, and then you have to combine all of those into 5 for the Globes. Oh, another one too is The Disaster Artist. I didn't list that one. That's another one that could maybe get some love at the Globes for screenplay. Okay, are we done? Yeah, I think that's it. As far as, and I didn't mention it at the Oscars one last time either, but for animated feature this year, there's a couple interesting choices they could go with. Lego Batman movie is great, and could, make up for maybe the first Lego movie not getting nominated at the Oscars. They might go with it this time. And there has been a rule change to where kind of the bigger movies I think have an easier chance now or something. There was a rule change here or there with a voting branch. That's what it was, because now I think it's for nominees and stuff. I think now everybody can vote for those. Before it was only the animated branch, so that's why. But yeah, Lego Batman would be one to consider there. See, Coco is coming out. I know that one is it's getting good reviews so far, and I think it's it looks like it'll be a nicely well done film and everything. I don't think the other Pixar one, Cars 3, that's not going anywhere. Despicable Me 3, it made money, but I don't know if the critics were really split on it. I don't know if it's going to get much buzz. But for me personally, I loved Captain Underpants, the first adventure or whatever it was called. Terrific movie and very much underseen and underappreciated. I doubt it's getting nominated anywhere, but that's one to maybe consider. I feel like there's a couple obvious ones that I'm not listing here. Obviously not the Emoji Movie. That's not going to happen. What else? Let me just pull up a list. See if there's like a list of like animated films that have come out this year. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm kind of pulling up the like a master list here. Um, well, sometimes DreamWorks gets in. They've got a couple this year. I don't think the Boss Baby would get in, but don't they have another one? Um, I'm not seeing it here. Um, there's also the Lego Ninjago movie, which yeah, I don't think they get more than one of those in for the Lego brand. Um, yeah, I think that's it. So yeah, it could be a tough time to get it up to five. Get it up to five nominees this year. But in that case, yeah, so Lego Batman would be probably the early bet. And then Despicable Me, because I think the second one and the first one, I think were both nominated at the Oscars. I know the second one gets nominated at the Globes, so that one probably both. Gosh, I mean, other than those, I mean, they always at the Globes or sorry, at the Oscars at least they always get some of the Japanese and kind of the Asian animated films in there. Some of the like Studio Ghibli kind of stuff. Those usually get a much better chance of getting it at the Oscars. Sometimes they sneak over into the Globes as well. And also we've seen recently like some of the Spanish animated films too, and the Mexican ones. Some of those get in as well. I think there was one last year. I can't remember what it is now, but I know there was My Life as a Zucchini. I can't remember where that one was from, but it was kind of a foreign one too, and that one got in at both, I believe. So yeah, we'll see what happens here. But I think the for the animated category this year, we're going to rely on a lot of those kind of animated films that come from outside the U.S. for sure. Yeah, so that's why. Yeah, I didn't mention that last time, but that's one. Yeah, we have to start considering animated feature as well. Okay, so that's going to wrap it up this time. Yeah, we'll be back, and it'll be when we get to November. That's when I officially say now you're a front runner. So, yeah, like we said, Gary Oldman is probably the best of the actors, probably the best bet to be the front runner, and who's going to stay there and continue to be the front runner through the whole season. Then we'll see if Sally Hawkins can get out front. Willem Dafoe's another easy bet. Laurie Metcalf will probably be the first early front runner there. Director, it's going to be between Guillermo del Toro and Christopher Nolan. For Best Picture, you've got Shape of Water, Dunkirk, and Call Me by Your Name are the three, and maybe The Post. We'll see. Let's see what else. And then for original screenplay, that one's all over the map. And for adapted screenplay, pretty much Call Me by Your Name is going to be the early front runner. Another one too, cinematography, Blade Runner 2049. Finally, we're going to see Roger Deakins win. Hopefully, and I think he will become the early front runner. And if it's a case like this where they've been nominated so many times and they haven't won, I think this time they're going to keep him. He's going to remain the front runner. I'm trying to think what else. Visual effects, yeah, I would probably War for the Planet of the Apes is going to stay out front for that one. Otherwise, Blade Runner will get its hits in. Shape of Water might get in there for visual effects. And then maybe Only the Brave is another one too. And did I mention Blade Runner yet? Blade Runner would be another one. And of course, Star Wars, The Last Jedi, for the visual effects. Okay, so I won't do a new video when we get to the front runner status when we officially get on there on November 1st. But yeah, I think especially when we get after the AFI Fest, I'll talk about what went there, what went down, what was good, what was bad, what got a boost, if anything got a boost, and what got diminished, if anything gets diminished. Trying to think what else. Obviously, when the Globe nominations come out, when we get closer to December, we'll go back on those. And also, the Screen Actors Guild Awards and the BAFTA nominations will be coming out not too long after those. So we'll get to those eventually. All right, guys, until next time. This has been Oscars at a Glance. Yeah, just talking mainly about Globes and AFI Fest.